On the dusty planet Kale-9, where mining machines never stop, stood the miners' refuge. It was a small, cramped establishment nestled between two maintenance hangars, where the smell of engine oil mingled with that of fermented beer. Behind the brushed steel counter stood Elias. In his 40s, he possessed that massive build only men who had carried ammunition sacks over long marches can acquire. His gray hair, cut in a brush style, framed a face marked by an old fatigue. To the customers, he was simply the old man to the Earth government. He was a former first-line reconnaissance agent, a man who had seen too much to want to see any more. Elias loved his silence. He loved the clinking of glasses and the hum of the fans. But that evening, the silence was shattered by a crash of deformed metal. The door swung open on three imposing masses. Alien mercenaries, standing 2 meters tall, invaded the cramped space. Their bodies were covered in a black chitinous shell, glistening like obsidian, and their multiple eyes glowed with a malicious light. They held plasma rifles whose barrels were already emitting an electric hum. "Where is the fugitive?" growled the largest of them, his voice a cavernous rasp. "Jintal, the Anthraxian fugitive. Give us his location or we will level this tin can." Human and alien customers froze. A miner, trembling, dropped his mug to the floor. The mercenaries began to loom over the room, pointing their weapons at terrified faces, demanding information on Jintal, a criminal whose name alone made neighboring sectors tremble. Elias didn't move an inch. He placed his hands on the counter and took a deep breath. "Gentlemen, please, calm down," he said in a low, steady voice, the one he used to diffuse tense situations in war zones. "You're in a place of business. Violence has no place here. If you want to talk, let's talk." The leader of the mercenaries stepped forward, the barrel of his plasma rifle brushing against the chin of a young human. "You talk too much, little human. You're nothing but dust vermin." Elias's gaze changed. The spark of peace died out, replaced by the coldness of a predator. The first mercenary raised his weapon to fire. He didn't even have time to press the trigger. Elias became a shadow. The movement was so fluid it almost seemed supernatural. In a fraction of a second, he dove over the counter, pivoted, and used his momentum to slam the first giant against the concrete wall. Before the alien could react, Elias was on him, seizing the weak point in his carapace's joint with surgical precision. A devastating punch, as precise as a blade, shattered the creature's internal structure. The giant collapsed, lifeless. The other two turned their weapons toward him, but they were too slow. Elias moved through the tables like a silent whirlwind. He dodged the first plasma shot by sliding on the floor, grabbed the second mercenary's arm, and snapped his neck in a swift, dry motion. The third, surprised by the bartender's lightning speed, tried to react, but Elias was already behind him. He used his own body weight to throw him against the bar, shattering the carapace before delivering a final lethal blow to the base of the skull. The silence that followed was absolute. The hum of the rifles died out. Elias stood for a moment, his breath short, his muscles still tense. Then, with a nearly methodical manner, he grabbed the massive bodies and dragged them toward the back door. He dumped them in the inner courtyard, stacking them with chilling logistical efficiency before rinsing his hands with cold water. He returned to the room. The customers were paralyzed, some weeping, others unable to blink in the face of the three corpses lying just a few meters away. Elias took his place behind the counter. He adjusted his apron, his face returning to that mask of Olympian calm he had worn for 5 years. "This is a quiet bar," he said simply, his voice not trembling at all. He turned toward the bottles and shouted with a serene smile. "Free drinks for everyone." A cry of joy and relief exploded in the room. The customers, caught between terror and hilarity, rushed toward the counter, celebrating survival and the bartender who, in a matter of seconds, had become the master of his realm once again.